Play. And we're live. And this is the Black Pill Productions. And the title of tonight's broadcast is what was tonight's broadcast title? Right wing or rightist social dynamics in forums, something of that nature. And that's what we're going to call tonight's broadcast anyway. So I'm going to talk about these different forums and their social dynamics and the basis for interactions on these different websites, be it the Bear Barrel or Tunis Bay or the Fora, all of which I've been very involved with over the years. And I thought I'd talk about it on this broadcast tonight because it's a very interesting broadcast or a very interesting subject to discuss. And I thought I'd bring it up also because I'm starting a little late. I'm extemporaneously speaking, of course. And here's the thing with the existence of forums. Forums gave a voice to the autist. Before forums existed, the autist had no voice, not only on the internet, but in life. And what I mean by that, if you look at Fade the Butcher, the only way a guy like Fade the Butcher would have of communicating with the world or communicating his thoughts and views with the world prior to the invention of the V Bulletin forum, what have you, is would have been by means of the Zine, the Zine, and he would have had to staple or a bunch of individual typewritten pages and pictures uh, together and make a Zine and try to a zine. Shows you how connected I was. Make a zine for the scene back in the day. And this is the only way he could have basically had a voice in current affairs because he couldn't speak. He couldn't appear in front of a screen, to be sure. And so consequently, he had no way of basically communicating with the world, communicating his thoughts and views and so forth and so on. So that's what the V Bulletin offered the world was the ability for a socially awkward individual who couldn't talk well or couldn't talk at all, was afraid to talk on camera or talk, uh, to strangers or what have you, or definitely afraid of a live audience or whatever. They could go on a V Bulletin and express themselves and discuss things with faceless strangers. And so this enabled a lot of people to have a voice who would not have otherwise had a voice. And then it propelled them to the second level, which was the blogosphere. And the blogosphere was you had for a brief time, a voice, with your blog. And that's what Fade basically does to this day is he blogs. He's got his Occidental descent, and he's enabled to produce content on that site, and he has a fan base that he's garnered over the years. So this is true for all the lesser posters all out there as well. And Fade is an example of a very successful poster. So it's all downhill from Fade. So the rest of those individuals who were involved in the Fora and the Bear Barrel and Tunis Bay and Stumble Inn and Scotty or Scotty or whatever and Stormfront and all these guys were unable to express themselves and they had no voice politically. And these forums existed specifically so they could interact with people who were like-minded or quite unlike-minded, possibly. But either way, they had that window where they could, do that. And some of them, Wintermute had a blog back in the day, and Anti Yeppy had a blog back in the day. Not many fora old heads will remember Wintermute and Anti Yeppy, but they blogged back in the day, and that was their way of interacting. But for the most part, people have trouble expressing themselves. And this has gone a long way with the idea of the quiet American, which I think Graham Greene discusses in his book, which is entitled The Quiet American, which is about a CIA agent who goes around doing nefarious things in Vietnam. And in the film, it was this agent was portrayed by, of all people, Audie Murphy, who was a real life American war hero who was a quiet American. Audie Murphy was not a guy who enjoyed acting. He had acting thrust upon him, in which he portrayed himself in the movies, but he did not enjoy acting or speaking extemporaneously, and he didn't enjoy crowds or anything like that. And he had significant trauma, or PTSD as it's called nowadays, from his adventures or heroics in World War II. So the point of the matter is that the idea Americans like to think of themselves as quiet and humble and without braggadocio, and but dangerous people nonetheless. And so this creation of the fora would enable people to basically be able to type things out and still express themselves without running their mouth to a certain extent. So you have individuals like Prack, who really is not a great big talker, but is probably could back up about a good percentage of his what little he does talk. What he does talk about. He can definitely kill whitetails and such things. That's about all Prack is capable of, I suppose, nowadays. But he can get his wheelchair to the deer blind and be a terror to the whitetails of the world. But the point of the matter is, most people, you know, aren't quiet Americans. They do talk, or they would talk more if they could, but it's very hard for people to express themselves in the modern world, and it's a very difficult path for them today. So this is the purpose of these forums, to enable discussion on a broad level between people of differing views, very differing views. And so this is what's going on, or what has gone on for many years. And you can use Fade as the top example, as I said, and everybody else is basically where they left off. 10 years ago, Peter's still doing his Plymouth Brethren routine, and that's great. And I got no problem with Peter and his Plymouth Brethren routines and his theology and doctrine and so forth and so on. And Prack is still doing whatever he does on the forum, all these years. I'm still not sure what it is, but whatever he's doing, it's great. And a lot of these other guys are just chugging along, and there's a lot of respect to be able to do that at the forum. And the reason I say that is because compare that to the Bear Barrel. And yes, myself and the Bear Barrel have had our ups and downs over the years. And the denizens of the Bear Barrel, we've had our ups and downs. We've not all been, it's not all been rosy. I have been banned about 16 times from the Bear Barrel without exaggeration. I've had no less than 8 or 9 accounts, and I think several of the accounts have been closed on multiple occasions. So I would say overall, we'll say 16 times over the past decade. I've been banned repeatedly from the Bear Barrel, and I don't hold any antipathy towards them, because at the end of the day, it's kind of like Bane, or is it Bane? It's whatever. It's like you are locking the doors to keep me out because you're afraid of being in there with me, and that's the bottom line. Basically, you're trying to keep me out because you feel safer with me on the outside. It's not that I'm annoying or reprehensible or my posts are so terrible. It's that at the end of the day, often enough, I outlasted everybody, and I'm not proud of that. I'm just saying the fora outlasted everybody too. So there are no awards for outlasting everybody, basically, but that's what happens. And what's interesting about the existence of these dynamics, or these social dynamics on these forums, is how or what data, how the data from the past 20 years of internet warlording has shook out. So we have a considerable amount of data because so many people have been posting every day since 2001. Nick's been posting every day since he got dial up on 9/11 2001, or dial up. What was it? Broadband, or what came between dial up and broadband? There was one other.
Dial-up mode.
Something kind of between dial up and broadband. But anyway, uh, Nick posted every single day, and a lot of other people did too. It was later on from 2001. I would say I posted the majority of days since 1998, or maybe 99. I posted the majority of days from 1999 through maybe 2014. I posted almost every day. And a lot of other guys did too. So that gives the AI a really good insight into people's minds and how they work. And certainly it gives us a lot of data to work with about who we are and how we functioned. And, looking back on that period of time, what happened, what transpired in all that time, and who's still posting and who fell by the wayside, or who overdosed, or who just was not able to maintain their posting career. And a lot of people were not able to maintain their posting career successfully. And I think the reason being, a lot of people fell to drugs. Some people are in jail. Some people are in the nut house, and some people are chugging along. And so, respects to those people who are still chugging along. Respects to Fade. At the end of the day, Fade is still chugging along. At the end of the day, Cole. I'm telling you this once for Cole. Was that John Wayne? Didn't he say that?
I think so.
Yeah. Prack is still chugging along. Uh, and so it's quite interesting how people have altered over the years. Kane's back on this site now, and on the other hand, we always thought of the fora as, we, by we I mean individuals who were on other sites that were considered more hardcore, be it Stumble In when I ran it, or the Bear Barrel, or Scotty, or VNN, or what have you, sites that Lindstedt was more welcome on back in the day. And we always considered fora to be kind of stuck up and kind of, how to put it, they definitely thought a lot of themselves, and so it's very interesting to see that fora has outlasted most of those sites. The Bear Barrel is a handful of individuals who basically, it's like a corner bar. It's like a ghost bar now. It's these same guys, and you watch them exist their whole lives, or they're like a sitcom over the past 10 years, because they come in and tell you all their troubles. It's like Cheers. It's exactly like Cheers, in a lot of ways when you look at the Bear Barrel. And this cast of characters that's come in, and they're no longer politically minded for the most part, because you can't be, really politically minded, even at the stage of active LARPing, and really have a life, because life is for those people who are definitely not practicing rightists. So you have to, let that go, to be sure. And then you have to, it's all downhill once you abandon any form of ideology. You're basically a lost soul that's going nowhere. So that's a very deleterious path to go down. And you see them going down this at the Bear Barrel, and that's one site. So I don't have anything negative to say about the Bear Barrel. It's Cheers. You have the characters from Cheers. No female. Well, there may be one or two derelict females. And the one woman who can't find anybody else to hang out with, so she hangs out with the other losers. It's also has you go for movie Barfly, if you ever seen the movie Barfly, and you have Grandma Moses hanging out with the guys in the bar or someone like that, and so you'll always have one, lonely, lost female soul hanging out with these other guys. They're lost souls. Their lives are just in shambles, and they come together on this online medium to interact with one another because they can't go to a real bar and interact with people of that caliber. I mean, by caliber, I mean you can't really talk about the Jews, or you can't hate blacks, or you can't, talk about gays or whatever. You can't do that at a regular bar anymore. You're not going to find a bunch of blue collar Archie Bunker types to be able to do that with. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticizing that. I'm just saying that there's no actual bar you can go do that in. So, the Bear Barrel, or it's like that old place, and these sad, lonely people without lives congregate there to interact with one another and explain how the Jews and blacks and government and everybody else has ruined their lives. And, make some sardonic jokes or what have you, or, interact with one another. So that's the whole purpose of the Bear Barrel. It doesn't really have any other purpose. Now, I've always thought the fora was a little different in that it had a guise of intellectualism over it. And so I think that's a primary difference in that the the mindset was different, or the whole areas of discussion, was always higher brow than any other forum in this milieu, so to speak. But then we go on to Tunis Bay, which is a recent product of the Zoomer invasion of Salo or whatever, that prompted Nick to shut the whole place down because Nick, can't stand the Zoomers, and everybody had hope for the Zoomers circa 2014. So in 2014, the I called the millennials Generation Faggot, and the Zoomers were Generation Maggot. And I had some hope, minor hope, for Generation Maggot. But as we've seen in most cases, a lot of these Zoomers are not turning out well. And a lot of the late millennials who also populate Tunis Bay are also very, unfortunate in their habits. They're basically children, for all intents and purposes, little children, and they're unable to interact with adults for the most part. So this enables individuals like Macrobius to basically prey on them. Macrobius is I don't know that Macrobius is actually a individual human being. I've said this before. Macrobius may be sentient AI or embodied AI. The existence of Macrobius for some period of time, because and Macrobius can claim he's been around, since the 90s. Yeah, I've been around since the 90s. Macrobius was nowhere around Rightist circles until the 2000s, and probably he had a change of life at some point, where he went right. But he'll claim I was always right from the start. Pat Buchanan. I don't think Macrobius was a Buchananite in the 90s. I don't think Macrobius was a Reaganite in the 80s. I think Macrobius' conversion to paleoconservatism and his arrival at Occidental descent was a fairly recent phenomenon. But the point of the matter is that he has these minds that he preys on with these posts that he writes, and whether he's embodied AI or not, I don't know. I can't say for sure. I don't have. That's a conjecture on my part. But the point of the matter is that these the minds of these late millennials and these Zoomers are easy prey for individuals like Macrobius, who comes in and basically becomes an internal parasite, and of course, like all parasites, attaching himself to the body politic, he becomes a part of the body, and he functions as part of the administration or part of the tech support, in all these forums now, and consequently he is basically holding the entirety of the circle of crust on his shoulders, more or less. Even Lindstedt and Kane, to a certain extent, are dependent on Macrobius or have been given a hand up by Macrobius. So again, not to this is by no means a overall criticism of Tunis Bay to a certain extent. This is more of an analysis. Yes, I did get kicked off of Tunis Bay as well, but I don't hold any grudges toward them. You know, there's no reason why would you hold a grudge specifically towards these individuals, these poor, benign or neglected homosexual kids. You know, they've had a hard life, and I don't have any hard feelings toward them. I mainly went to post on Tunis Bay so I could interact with my dear friend Fitzgerald, and that was my primary function. I really didn't have any higher function to interact with, or any greater reason to interact with him than to be there. I didn't have any other great motivating agenda to be on Tunis Bay because it was not a very stimulating sight. It's very unfortunate that the saddest reality expressed by the boomers and not the boomers, but the Zoomers and the millennials is that they're low energy, tedious, boring individuals who are mostly reincarnated insects, in my opinion. So that covers Tunis Bay for the most part. And I wanted to get back to the dynamics of these forums because we have individuals who are online at this time, and people say, "Oh, I'll come on the show," these will come on the guests, and they never do. They don't want to actually come on and be a part of the show because they are uncomfortable. They all have social anxiety. They all have problems, and they don't feel comfortable actually going live. And this is why the foray exists to enable them to express their thoughts and views to a audience who can only critique them by the written word. So basically, forums have, I don't think they were always this way, but they've become a conglomerate of nerds passing notes to each other. So, what's the show? What's the comedian, the big fat Iglesias? No, Mr. Iglesias. Mr. In the show, there's an Asian girl who can only communicate by typing into her computer, and the computer talks for her. And that's pretty much the way it works. That's a large number of members on these sites can only communicate that way. And what I've come to be fascinated by is the role certain posters play in manipulating the means and ends, or ends and ways and means, or what have you, or of these forums and why they exist and how they get rid of people they don't like, or how they weasel their way into positions of authority and ban people that don't annoy them or don't fit their agenda, or it's a very interesting dynamic. And there are people who you would never think, like Pratt, who have come a long way of just steady posting and literally have not worked a job or done anything meaningful in many, many years. And their time has been spent undercutting people who don't really have lives. And I've met a lot of online posters, and in real life, I mean, a lot during the Ron Paul campaign, to be sure. I met a lot of those individuals, and I'm not going to mention their names, obviously, but I met them in person, traveling the country, doing Ron Paul stuff back in those days. So, and then I got to see them interact with people after I'd met them, and saw the lack of harmony between them and their online personas, because they had very different personalities than their online personas. And that's kind of interesting, very interesting how different they were from their online personas. And I would have thought that some of these guys would make an effort to to make their IRL and their online personas more harmonious after they went in public and basically said their usernames to a bunch of strangers, But that was not the case. They went right on interacting or acting differently according to their split personalities on differently on the internet. So I thought that was interesting and very instructive. And since then, I watched people, and again, I don't mean to pick on Prack. I respect Prack immensely, but I'm fascinated by Prack, to be honest. Prack is like a giant whale and just gliding through the waters of these bulletin fora and just existing, and at the same time uh being able to totally, you know, overcome a lot of anyone any enemy he or any person he designates or feels as his enemy or adversary. He is able to completely overcome them by whatever means necessary, be it necessary that he become an administrator and ban them, be it necessary that he harass them until they leave the site, be it necessary that he start a whispering campaign behind their back, whatever it takes. Crack is going to accomplish what he sets out to do, which is extraordinary, and very much respect to him for that. This, and like a whale, he travels from forum to forum and just glides through each across boundary and property lines, and just is respected and honored wherever he goes. And so that's quite extraordinary. And so it's very interesting that Pratt might decide to pick on, for example, I'm not saying he's a bully, I'm just saying supposedly, imagine this guy annoys him, and this guy is a non-entity, but he still annoys Pratt. So this guy has no standing or no clout in real life or on a forum, but he annoys Pratt again. So Pratt is going to absolutely crush him if he possibly can, and that's the case with a lot of these posts. And that's one of the reasons why these forums have essentially been pretty cliquey over the years, or pretty, they've been dominated by cliques, and a lot of those cliques are no longer with us. Like on the fora, you had Sella the Dictator back in the day, or as the Jaybird used to call him, Sella the Dictator. and, and Sella was a prominent moderator under Flack. And at some point Flack is going to expire, hopefully not anytime soon, and a lot of these people are gonna, you know I think the four will go under after Flack passes, because Flack is the man with the plan. Flack is the Fuhrer of the lawnmower. And so I respect Flack in his efforts as well, but this is Flack's life. This is the corner bar that Flack goes to. This is the only place where Flack can express himself, not because Flack can't talk in public or he has autism or anything. He just has no other blue collar space in which he can express himself. So this is the only place he can go. And this is why he basically continues to subsidize and maintain this site, the forum, primarily. It's not about any political ends or any personal ends or personal power or what have you. It's just about trying to keep a space available, because, and one of the notable issues is a lot of the spaces have been removed in real life. So basically these forums, it's very interesting because you're basically in with the forums, you're trapped in a corner. And what's interesting is, and I've been in some houses lately, people talk about this, but I've seen it firsthand, and that is when these individuals want to talk about, or there's pictures of it, like a starving person sitting in a cold room that's bare, and they have their cell phone hooked up, and they have their they're living in virtual reality, but their actual reality is pretty horrible. And that exists right now. That exists at this period of time. people are living in. I've been in houses that were just completely falling apart, but people had their computers and their laptops and their cell phones, and that's all they needed. And you order a Little Caesars pizza, and you're good to go. And the house can be falling in and rodents taking over and what have you, and you're stuck in your virtual reality because it's better than anything you can experience. Even if you cleaned up the house, even if you were able to function on the same level as everybody else, so what? Where's that getting you? Nowhere. So why bother? At the end of the day, I understand those people who are unable to make anything of their real life situation because all life is giving you is this little online space. So why not take it? Why not completely ignore reality and what's going on IRL and focus on your little spaces because that's all you got. That's what you've been allocated. That's where you've been driven to. So you have nothing else. So you might as well focus on that little area. And this is what I think a lot of people have done in the world of religion, in the world of politics. It's these ghettos. They are basically ghettos for people, ghettos for anti Semites, ghettos for all these people. There are no spaces in the world that will tolerate any dissenting views. No actual real estate on which you can stand, which where the owner will back you up or even allow you to express yourself. And once you realize this, you understand the necessity of these, bulletin boards will basically exist until the end of time, I think, or until all the people on them pass away, because that's their space, their little email list for followers of this niche issue that is no longer relevant to anybody else. So I'm fixing to wrap this up. I thought I would talk, a little bit more about the social dynamics of why individuals like Macrobius are on the site. And again, I'm going to stick with the idea of Macrobius being embodied AI, and that's why his posts are the way they are. I think he ripped off great books for men, and that's why his posting style is the way it is. He's basically ripping off great books for men, and the purpose is to communicate with a ADHD audience, which most of the autists are ADHD somehow. Autistic ADHD. What do you call it? TARDs, basically. You call them TARDs. And at the end of the day, this is the structure, in which that's where we are today in the world. And so I'm going to be doing more videos on this subject and others in the near future. And for the moment, uh, we're going to be doing them on this channel. Now, I did post another channel, which is the Great Books for Men channel, Macrobianism or whatever. And but I'm going to be doing most of the videos on Black Pill Productions, and I'll be doing live streams and inviting individuals to come on and express themselves. And if you enjoyed this broadcast, please consider donating generously because I'm giving you this opportunity to donate. It's an opportunity. That's what it is. And you need to avail yourself of this opportunity to donate generously because the content you are getting is premium content. And I feel as though you fail to understand everything that Macrobius and some of these other individuals are getting out of it. People are getting paid to post on forums. I'm not getting paid. I'm not getting paid anything, but I can tell you unequivocally that people are getting paid. Whether Macrobius is one of them, I don't know. Uh, Obviously, Prac is getting paid one way or the other. So there are people who are getting paid to post on forums, and the fact that I'm able to inform you of this reality, is should be enough to impel you to make a generous donation to the cause of Dr. Breck, and I also have a couple of charitable causes that I will be accepting donations for as well. And what's the Cash App again?
Oh, he didn't prepare me.
Well, it's not
Donkey
crucial.
Rescue, I think.
Yes, it's hashtag
#
Donkey Rescue, and that will go to my favorite charity, which is devoted to the rescue and rehabilitation of Jerusalem donkeys. Now, Jerusalem donkeys are called Jerusalem donkeys because supposedly, in between the time that what was it, Simon the Cyrene carried the cross for Christ on his way to Golgotha, they put it on the back of a Jerusalem donkey. And ever since then, the Jerusalem donkey has had a cross imprinted on its back. So they're all born with crosses on their back, at least this is the story. So Jerusalem donkeys are frequently neglected in the United States today. And consequently, the need for their rescue and rehabilitation is profound. And send this to my favorite charity at pound sign.
We'll post it in the comments.
Yeah, I'll post in the comments. And so this has been a good broadcast, I believe, in my opinion, my humble opinion, no less. And I appreciate the 4 viewers who were willing to not participate in this broadcast, but who were willing to at least view it. And we will be doing a broadcast. I'm hoping to do a broadcast tomorrow night. I can't 100% guarantee we will be doing a broadcast tomorrow night. A lot of it's going to depend on whether there's interest enough to do a broadcast. I will be posting content, short broadcasts or short broadcasts on this channel and on the for a thread because I want to put out some new content, some other videos I'm doing on other subjects. I definitely recommend you check out my video on Harley Pasternak and the other guy. What was his name?
I don't know.
Oh, Mayhem Miller, Harley Pasternak, and I'm trying to think of the main one. Anyway, the point of the matter is you need to check out the other videos, you need to like them and subscribe to this channel, and you need to do it now.